India and Pakistan are building up large troop deployments along the border, signaling the possibility of an imminent military strike. But to understand how tensions reached this point, we need to go back to how this started from the Pahalgam terrorist attack, which claimed 26 lives on April 22, 2025. After the assault, they escaped back into the forest. We also have a detailed timeline of how this happened. According to the Indian Army, this is an act of war. In this video, we'll explore both India and Pakistan's military strategies without taking sides. India follows the cold start doctrine, while Pakistan relies on its new concept of warfighting, also known as NCWR. Pakistan could use its Chinese-made JF-17 jets and American F-16s to launch a surprise strike. India, on the other hand, has the French-built Rafale, the Russian Sukhoi Su-30, and the MiG aircraft. More details all in the video ahead. Before noon, hundreds of tourists, including families and honeymooners, flocked to the scenic Bazaran Meadows in Pahalgam, a valley accessible only by foot or pony rides. The area was bustling with visitors enjoying the picturesque landscape often referred to as Mini Switzerland. According to reports, security forces were notably absent from this popular tourist spot. The terrorists responsible for the Pahalgam attack infiltrated the Bazaran Meadow area of Pahalgam in Anantnag district after trekking for several hours through dense forests originating from the Kokernak region. According to India, Adil Ahmed Thoker, a local from Bijbehara who had returned from Pakistan, played a key role in guiding the group. Thoker and his associates had crossed into India from Pakistan-occupied Kashmir through the rugged and remote Poonch Rajouri sector of the Line of Control back in October 2024. This sector, known for its difficult terrain, has historically been exploited for illegal crossings. After infiltrating, the group moved covertly through the forested and mountainous routes of Jammu and Kashmir. They carefully avoided detection by sticking to interior tracks and hilly belts, eventually making their way to Anantnag and finally to Pahalgam. The attackers emerged from the dense pine forests surrounding Bazaran Meadow, a beloved tourist destination, and launched their assault, opening fire on the unsuspecting tourists gathered there. Let's look at the detailed timeline of the attack and how the horror unfolds. At around 2:25, survivors reported hearing the first bursts of gunfire while tourists were picnicking or preparing to leave. A brief, eerie silence followed, sowing confusion and fear among the visitors. By 2:45, armed militants in camouflage clothing emerged from the nearby forest and began firing indiscriminately into the crowd. Witnesses describe how the attackers sometimes singled out men, asking if they were Muslims before deciding whether to shoot. Many tourists scrambled for cover, hiding behind fences, sliding down muddy slopes, or diving into pits to avoid the gunfire. The shooting continued relentlessly for about 30 minutes. By 3 o'clock in the evening, the attackers were targeting tourists attempting to escape near the few available exit points. In the brutal attack, at least 26 people were killed, including a Navy officer on his honeymoon and a former banker. At around 3:40 p.m., Indian Army helicopters arrived overhead, signaling the beginning of a large-scale evacuation operation. Special forces swiftly secured the area by 4 o'clock p.m., escorting the stunned and terrified survivors to safety. In the chaos that followed, the terrorists managed to vanish once again into the surrounding dense forest before security forces could engage them. Eyewitnesses and investigators later reported that the attackers used the forest cover to facilitate their escape, taking full advantage of the rugged topography and natural camouflage offered by the terrain. To further evade tracking, the group reportedly discarded stolen mobile phones during their retreat. As of the latest updates, the terrorists remain at large, with a massive manhunt underway across the forests and hills around Pahalgam and Anantnag. Pakistan might move first, and India responded without hesitation. For now, both sides seem determined to avoid the unthinkable, the use of nuclear weapons, but neither seemed willing to back down from full-scale conventional war. Pakistan, knowing its military and economy were dwarfed by India's, understood that time was not on its side. Their generals agreed that if war must come, it had to be fast and brutal. Pakistan's strategy would be simple: strike hard, strike early, seize territory, and force the world to intervene before India could bring its overwhelming strength to bear. As you watch this, data brokers may be collecting and selling your personal information, your home address, phone number, online searches, and even financial details. This data doesn't just result in spam calls and scam attempts. It can also affect your personal credit score, as scammers may manipulate your data, potentially leading to a loan denial. That's where Incogni comes in to protect your privacy. The service scans the web for exposed data, sends automated removal requests, and continuously follows up to ensure your information stays deleted. It also performs regular scans to prevent data brokers from sneaking your information back into circulation, all while providing you with a clear, real-time dashboard to track your data. So take your personal data back with Incogni. Use code AITELLY with the link below, incogni.com/AITELLY, and get 60% off on an annual plan. They decided to turn India's cold start doctrine, which envisioned lightning-fast thrusts into enemy territory, into a kind of desperate offensive of their own. This is how it will strike. Just a reminder, Pakistan also have American F-16 fighter jets, but they cannot be used against India according to an agreement. So instead they have these Chinese J-17 jets to make the first attack. Before dawn on the first day, Pakistani jet will roar across the border, aiming to cripple India's frontline air bases in Punjab, Rajasthan, and Jammu. Their missiles scream down onto radar stations, command hubs, and airfields, seeking to blind Indian defenses and soften the ground for what would come next. Pakistan will then deploy the main battle tank, the Khalid, along with several support vehicles. They will move from the Lahore-Sialkot corridor, Pakistan's elite armored division's thundered will, into Indian Punjab. Their immediate objective is clear: seize Amritsar and the surrounding districts before India could react. Holding Indian territory would give Pakistan powerful leverage in negotiations later, provided they could hold onto it. At the same time, across the rugged mountains of Kashmir, Pakistani special forces, irregular fighters, and seasoned infiltrators pushed across the line of control. Their mission was even more ambitious: to sever the vital Jammu-Srinagar highway and isolate the Kashmir Valley from the rest of India. Farther south, Indian forces surged into Pakistan's Sindh province, racing towards Hyderabad and Karachi, hoping to draw Indian reserves away from the real action. Meanwhile, at sea, Pakistan's Navy knew it was badly outmatched against a massive Indian Navy submarine and carriers. Rather than risking a head-on battle, they sent their submarines into the dark waters of the Arabian Sea to lay deadly minefields near Mumbai and Gujarat's coastline. Their job was not to defeat India's navy, but to disrupt, delay, and force India to divert precious resources. Now let's look at how India Cold Start military doctrine works. It involves the various branches of India's military conducting offensive operations as part of a unified battle groups. Even as Pakistani tanks crossed the frontier, the Indian Air Force, much larger and more powerful than Pakistan's, was already executing its own battle plan. They had the cutting-edge Rafale fighters alongside the tried and tested MiG-21s and the formidable Sukhoi Su-30. Within minutes, these aircraft would meet Pakistan's advancing armored columns head-on, diving into the battlefield like hawks. Waves of fighter bombers, shielded by electronic jammers and escorted by interceptors, plunged deep into Pakistani airspace. Their targets were carefully chosen: air defense networks, radar stations, and key military hubs in cities like Lahore, Sargodha, and Multan. The mission was brutal in its clarity: paralyze Pakistan's ability to command and control its forces, strip away its defenses, and leave its military exposed to the full fury of India's advancing war machine. As Indian jets shredded the skies above India's ground forces, the powerful strike corps began their thunderous advance toward the border. They brought with them the fearsome Russian-made T-90 tanks, India's own Arjun tanks, and an endless stream of armored vehicles that turned the earth beneath them into a trembling plain. Their tanks and mechanized infantry smashed through Pakistani defenses with cold, relentless precision. Within just 48 hours, Indian units were at the gates of Lahore. They bypassed strong points, choosing instead to encircle the city, cutting it off from reinforcement and supply. Every mile gained on Pakistani soil brought with it an ever-growing risk of escalation, but India's generals knew time was their enemy. They pressed forward, determined to achieve a decisive victory before the international community could impose a ceasefire. Farther south, Indian forces surged into Pakistan's Sindh province, racing towards Hyderabad and Karachi. Their objective was clear: to sever Pakistan's southern arteries, cutting off Karachi, the beating heart of Pakistan's economy, from the rest of the country. Meanwhile, in Kashmir, Indian forces fought with brutal determination to repel Pakistani infiltrators. Yet they avoided a deep counteroffensive across the line of control, wary that any major territorial gains could provoke Pakistan into crossing its nuclear threshold. At sea, India's navy moved with ruthless efficiency. Carrier battle groups steamed into position off the Pakistani coast, imposing a tight blockade around Karachi. BrahMos missiles rained down on Pakistan's port facilities and vital energy infrastructure. Even Gwadar, Pakistan's prized port built with immense Chinese investment, found itself under attack as Indian warships ruled the Arabian Sea with almost complete impunity. During the first furious week of war, both nations suffered grievous losses. The front lines were fluid, the battles fierce, but it quickly became clear that India's greater weight, its larger military, its deeper reserves, its greater industrial power was beginning to tip the balance. Inside Pakistan's high command, as Lahore teetered on the edge of encirclement and Karachi faced strangulation, whispers of the darkest possibilities began to surface. Tactical nuclear weapons, the last terrible card in Pakistan's hand, loomed closer to reality. We make original 4K 3D animation with a small team of animators, so please support us by subscribing and dropping in a comment for more exclusive engineering animations made just for you guys.